I didn't expect much when Jake called me that afternoon. It seemed like just another small favor, a quick task that friends ask for now and then. Usually, it was something simple, like picking him up from a party or grabbing some groceries for him. But this time, something felt different. "Hey, Noah," Jake said over the phone, his tone more serious than usual. "Can you do me a favor? Can you pick up Lily from the gym?" A work thing came up last minute. I paused, caught off guard. Lily was his girlfriend, the one he'd been dating for over a year. We weren't particularly close, though she was always polite when we saw each other at gatherings or when I visited Jake. "Sure, no problem. When do you need me to go?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. Jake gave me the details, where the gym was and when Lily would be done. I grabbed my keys and headed out, thinking it would be a quick drive. Little did I know this small errand was about to change everything. When I arrived at the gym, I spotted Lily right away. She was leaving, looking like she'd just finished an intense workout. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and a light sheen of sweat covered her forehead. She looked different, though I couldn't explain why. I waved, and she smiled back, warmer than I remembered. "Hey, Noah, thanks for picking me up," she said, climbing into the passenger seat. Her voice was softer than usual, almost hesitant. "No problem. Happy to help," I replied, starting the car. The drive began uneventfully. We made small talk, how her workout went, her plans for the evening. But then, out of nowhere, she said something that left me stunned. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she began, her voice uncertain. "About everything, about Jake and me." I glanced at her briefly, unsure of where this was going. She hesitated before continuing. "I've never told you this, but I don't love Jake the way I should. I never have." I blinked, my grip on the steering wheel tightening. "Was this a joke?" You're joking, right?" I asked, though deep down I knew she wasn't. She shook her head, her gaze fixed on the window. "Jake's a good guy, and I care about him, but I've never been in love with him. Not the way I thought I should be. And I've been carrying something else for a while. Something I don't know how to handle." The air between us felt heavy. "What are you saying?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Lily took a deep breath. "I felt something for you, Noah. For a while now." I froze. My heart raced, and my mind went blank. "Lily, you're with Jake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know," she replied, her tone filled with sadness. But I couldn't keep this inside anymore. "I don't expect anything from you. I just needed to tell you." The rest of the drive passed in silence. By the time we reached Jake's place, my thoughts were a tangled mess. I parked the car and turned to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, forcing a faint smile. "Thanks for listening, Noah." I watched her walk toward the house, my heart pounding. What had just happened? This wasn't supposed to happen. She was Jake's girlfriend, Jake my best friend. As I drove home, her words echoed in my head. "I felt something for you, Noah." It didn't make sense. Jake and Lily seemed perfect together. Or so I had thought. When I arrived home, my phone buzzed. It was Jake. "Hey, man. Thanks again for picking up Lily." "Everything good?" he asked, his voice upbeat. "Yeah," I lied, trying to sound normal. "She's good. Just tired from her workout." "Thanks again. You're the best," Jake said before hanging up. I stared at the phone in my hand, my chest tightening. What Lily had said could destroy everything. Her relationship with Jake and my friendship with him. And somehow, I knew this was only the beginning of something much bigger that I muttered. "Catch you later, man. Let's grab a beer this weekend." "Yeah, sure. Later," Jake replied before the call ended. I sat in my car for a few minutes, trying to process everything. It felt like my whole world had shifted, but I couldn't figure out why. I wanted to scream, laugh, or even cry, but none of it made sense. I had to keep it together. For Jake, for Lily, and for everything we'd built as friends. Later that evening, I texted Jake, saying I'd stop by his place the next day to watch the game or grab a drink. I wasn't lying. We'd hang out. But deep down, all I could think about was Lily and her confession. The more I thought about it, the less I understood. Was she serious? Did she really mean it when she said she had feelings for me? Or was she just confused? She was in a committed relationship with Jake. Maybe it was a momentary lapse in judgment. I had no answers, and the longer I avoided speaking with her, the more I second-guessed everything. The next day, I got a text from Lily. My chest tightened as I read it. "Hey, Noah, can we talk? I really need to get something off my chest." I had a pretty good idea of what she wanted to say, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear it. Still, I couldn't ignore her. "Sure, I'll meet you at the park near your place in 15 minutes. When I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench by the lake, staring at the water. She looked tense, her posture stiff, like she was bracing herself for something difficult. When she noticed me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," she greeted softly. "Hey," I replied, sitting beside her. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. Yesterday's words echoed in my mind, lingering in the air between us. Finally, Lily broke the silence. "Noah, I didn't want to put this on you. I really didn't," she began, her voice trembling. "But yesterday, when I said all those things, I meant them. I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. She was serious. She wasn't backing down. That terrified me. "I don't know what to do with this," I admitted quietly. "I mean, you're with Jake. He's my best friend." "I know," she said, her voice barely audible as she looked out at the lake. The soft breeze rustled her hair, but the tension between us was unshakable. That's what makes this so hard. I feel like the worst person in the world, but I can't bury this anymore. I've been hiding it for too long. Her sincerity was unmistakable. She wasn't trying to manipulate me or make me feel sorry for her. She was simply being honest, and that made it even harder. "You know what this could do, right?" I asked, my voice rough. "To Jake? To us?" She nodded, her expression a mixture of regret and understanding. "I know. That's why I hate myself for feeling this way. But it's the truth, Noah. I've felt it for a long time, and I just couldn't lie anymore. I'm sorry." Her apology felt genuine. She wasn't trying to justify her feelings. She was just torn between loyalty and something deeper. I sat there in silence, my mind racing. This wasn't something I could just brush aside. That evening, I drove home with my thoughts in chaos. Lily's confession kept replaying in my head. How could she have hidden these feelings for so long? Was this even real? Everything between Jake and me now felt fragile, like a house of cards ready to collapse. For the next few days, I tried to focus on work and keep busy. But whenever I was alone, my mind drifted back to Lily and the way she looked at me, like she was waiting for something I wasn't sure I could give. By Friday night, I couldn't avoid Jake any longer. We met at our usual bar, and he greeted me with his signature grin. He ordered a beer, and I took my usual whiskey. The burn of the drink didn't calm my nerves like it usually did. "What's up, man?" Jake asked, leaning back in his chair. "You've been acting weird lately. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind. Work, life, you know." Jake nodded, but his sharp eyes told me he wasn't convinced. "Listen, if something's going on, you can talk to me. I know we don't always get into personal stuff, but I'm here for you." His sincerity hit me hard. Jake was offering his support while I sat there, carrying a truth that could ruin everything. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words before I spoke. "Jake, I need to tell you something," I said, my voice shaky. "It's about Lily." He frowned, leaning forward. "What about Lily? Is she okay?" She's fine," I said quickly, trying to soften the blow. "But she told me something I didn't expect." Jake's expression shifted. "What did she say?" I hesitated, the words feeling like they'd break everything we had. But I couldn't lie to him. She told me she's always had feelings for me. Jake froze, his beer untouched. For a long moment, he didn't say anything, and I couldn't read the emotions flickering across his face. Tom didn't say anything at first. His expression was unreadable. Was he hurt, confused, angry? I couldn't tell. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. She told you that? Yeah, I said quietly. She said she never really loved you the way she should have. That I was the one she had feelings for all along. Tom sat back, his chair scraping the floor. He looked at me like he didn't know what to say, like he was trying to process something too big to grasp. Honestly, I couldn't either. I don't know what to do, man, I added, my words tumbling out in an effort to explain myself. I never thought of her like that, and now, I don't know. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this to happen. Tom didn't respond right away. Instead, he took a long drink of his beer, his gaze distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, a quiet intensity. Do you love her? It was such a simple question, but it cut through me like a knife. The answer should have been easy, right? But it wasn't. I don't know, I admitted, my voice cracking slightly. I don't know what to feel anymore. She's been a part of my life for so long, and now it feels like everything's changing. Tom nodded slowly, digesting my words. You don't have to have it all figured out, Mike, he said softly. But don't do anything stupid. Don't let this mess up what we have, not over something that might just be a phase. Or worse, a misunderstanding. You have to think about it. I will, I promise, but deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The next few days blurred together. I tried to focus on work and keep things as normal as possible. But my mind kept circling back to Emma, to Tom, to the fragile balance between us. Then I saw Emma again. We met at a small cafe where we used to meet before, back when everything felt simple. This time, there was a weight between us that couldn't be ignored. She didn't say much at first, but I could see it in her eyes. She wanted to talk. She needed to. Mike, she began, hesitating. I know things have been weird between us since everything I said, but I don't want this to ruin what we've always had. Can we just talk about it? I nodded, but the air around us felt thick, heavy with everything we hadn't said yet. What do you want from me, Emma? The question came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't stop. What do you expect me to do? She looked at me, her expression softening. I don't expect anything. I never did. I just wanted to be honest with you about everything. For a moment, I almost believed her. But deep down, I knew we'd already crossed a line. Things had been set into motion, and no amount of careful words could undo that. It felt like I was walking through a storm. Every decision, every glance, every word exchanged with Emma seemed like another fork in the road, another weight on my shoulders. I didn't know where this was going, but I couldn't turn back now. And then there was Tom. How could I even think about letting this destroy what we had? How could I be so close to ruining years of friendship? I kept asking myself the same question over and over. What do I want? Was I ready to act on my growing feelings for Emma, or was I just being swept away by a storm of emotions? Was this a moment of weakness, something that would pass? The tension between Emma and me grew every time we saw each other. There was no denying the spark, no ignoring the way our conversations had changed. They weren't casual anymore. They had depth, intensity, meaning. And I had to admit, part of me wanted to see where it could go. But that didn't change the reality staring me in the face that I stared at the screen. Tom's message staring back at me like a challenge I wasn't ready for. Yo, Mike, you good? We need to talk. The words felt heavy, like they carried the weight of everything I'd been trying to avoid. My mind raced through possibilities. Did he know? Had Emma told him? Had he seen something in the way I acted? Or worse, the way I looked at her? I typed and deleted 3 different replies before settling on the simplest one. Yeah, I'm good. What's up? The response came almost immediately. Come over. Need to talk face to face. My stomach sank. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to wait. When I arrived at Tom's place, the air between us was thick with unspoken tension. He greeted me at the door, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by something quieter, more serious. "Hey," he said, stepping aside to let me in. "Hey," I echoed. Trying to keep my voice steadied, we moved to the living room, and Tom gestured for me to sit. He grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and handed me one before sitting down across from me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Finally, Tom broke it. "Mike, I'm not going to beat around the bush," he said, his tone calm but direct. "I know something's been off lately, and I think I know why." My throat went dry. "What do you mean?" He looked me dead in the eye, his expression unreadable. "Emma, she's been acting weird too, and I can't shake the feeling that it has something to do with you." I froze, my mind scrambling for a response. "Tom, She told me," he interrupted, his voice tight. "She told me everything." The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. There it was, the moment I'd been dreading. "Everything?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, his jaw tight. "Yeah, about how she's been feeling, about what she told you." I opened my mouth to respond, but he held up a hand to stop me. "I'm not here to pick a fight, Mike. I need to know where you stand, because right now, it feels like I'm about to lose both of you." His words hit me like a freight train. The pain in his voice was unmistakable, and it tore at something deep inside me. "Tom, I never wanted this," I said, my voice raw. "I never wanted to hurt you or make things weird between us. Emma, she just told me out of the blue. I didn't know how to handle it." He stared at me, his eyes searching mine. "And now? How do you feel now?" I hesitated. What could I say? That I didn't know? That I was just as confused as he was? The truth felt like a betrayal no matter how I framed it. "I don't know," I admitted, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "I don't know what to feel. I'm just trying to figure it out." Tom leaned back, rubbing a hand over his face. "This is a mess, man. A complete mess. I love Emma, and I thought she loved me too. But now..." He trailed off, shaking his head. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I never wanted to be in the middle of this." "I know," he said, his voice softer now. "But we are. And we need to figure out what happens next. Because I can't keep living like this, wondering if the 2 people I trust most are keeping something from me." When I left Tom's place that night, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. The truth was out, and there was no taking it back. As I drove home, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emma. "Hey, did you talk to Tom? Is everything okay?" I stared at the message, my hands tightening on the steering wheel. Everything was far from okay, but I didn't know how to say that. "Yeah," I typed back. "We talked. It's complicated." Her reply came quickly. "Can we meet?" I didn't respond right away. I needed time to think, to process. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The message was sent, and with it, a weight lifted from my chest, only to be replaced by the anticipation of Emma's response. Every second that passed felt stretched and fragile, like the moments before a storm. I couldn't sit still, pacing my room while every thought raced to the worst-case scenario. Would she even reply? When my phone finally buzzed, I jumped as if the sound had jolted me out of a trance. Her reply was simple, but it carried more weight than I expected. "We need to talk. Same place? The bookstore cafe. Our unofficial meeting ground. The space where so many unspoken truths had already found their way into the open." Later that afternoon, I arrived before Emma, needing the time to gather myself. The cafe was quieter than usual, the soft hum of conversation blending with the scent of coffee and old books. It was a place that had always felt comforting, but now it felt charged, like the very air held the weight of what was to come. When Emma walked in, she spotted me immediately. Her steps were hesitant, but her gaze was steady. She wore the same expression she'd had the last time we were here, a mix of resolve and vulnerability that made it impossible to look away. "Hey," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. "Hey." For a moment, we just sat there, the silence between us filled with everything we wanted to say but didn't know how. Finally, Emma broke the tension. "I talked to Tom," she said, her voice quiet but firm. The words hit me like a stone. What did you say?" "I told him everything," she admitted, "about how I feel, about how I felt for a long time. I couldn't keep it from him, Mike. He deserved to know." I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, he does. I talked to him too." Her eyes widened slightly. "You did? What did he say?" I took a deep breath, the memory of Tom's words still fresh and heavy. "He said he's known for a while, that he saw it before either of us were willing to admit it. And he said he's ready to let you go." Emma's lips parted in a silent gasp, her eyes searching mine. "He said that." "Yeah." I nodded, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. "He still cares about you, Emma, but he knows he can't hold on to something that isn't there anymore." She looked down, her fingers tracing the edge of her coffee cup. "I hate that it had to come to this. I hate that I hurt him." "I know," I said softly, "but we can't change what's already happened." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't as heavy this time. It was more reflective, like we were both processing the enormity of what we'd set into motion. "What do we do now?" Emma asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a question I'd been asking myself over and over, with no clear answer. But now, looking at her, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to form. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think we need to take it one step at a time. No more running, no more pretending. Just honesty. With each other, with Tom, with ourselves." Emma nodded slowly, her eyes meeting mine. "One step at a time," she repeated. It wasn't a resolution. It wasn't a guarantee that everything would work out. But it was something. A commitment to facing the mess we created, no matter how hard it might be. As we sat there, the sun beginning to dip below the horizon, I felt a strange sense of peace. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. I wasn't alone in this anymore.